Good evening and welcome to the first ever Prepared Pilots long form video. We're on board Ryanair flight 82 Mike Echo, which is flight number FR817 from Edinburgh across to Dublin this evening. Relatively nice and calm evening here in Edinburgh before we set off for the flight to Dublin, which will be about an hour. Well, at the moment 6 degrees Celsius, 22 knot winds, so it should be a little bit interesting on departure, not too boring. Weather across in Dublin, variable knots, variable directional wind, sorry, with a little bit of wind gusts and some rain showers, so typical Irish evening. Passenger load today, 144 people on board. We've already loaded up with the fuel, as you can see the truck just moving away there, but just topping us up, we'll be departing with just over 5 tonnes of fuel. We'll hop inside now, we'll get the aircraft all set up and we'll be on our way. So the familiar sights of the 737 cockpit. Got to stick some more lights on and get the aircraft ready for flight. We're about 15 minutes to run now. Add-ons news today are UK 2000's Edinburgh scenery, Mega Airport Dublin from Aerosoft, GSX doing our ground services there, pushback tug waiting for us. We're also using Active Skynex for the weather along with Rex 4 textures, and for the general scenery we're using FTX Scotland from ORBX in combination with ORBX Global and Open Land Class Europe, Vector, and on our arrival into Ireland it'll be ORBX Ireland scenery. In combination with that, just to give us a bit more of a passenger experience so we don't feel like we're flying ourselves, FS Passengers is taking care of the loading of the talking cargo, the passengers in the back, all 144 of them, and assisting me flying the aircraft today will be FS2 crew Reboot. We're on the VATSIM network, but there's very quiet, as you can see here in VATSIM this evening at Edinburgh. There was air traffic control on, it's logged off for the moment, so we'll see, maybe they'll come back on. Jump down to the FMC now, and we'll start programming for the flight. You can see I've already entered Edinburgh and Dublin. 82 Mike Echo, the flight number, departure runway is 24. What we'll do is we'll just go and enter our departure just now, just so we've got it entered. So it will be a GoSum 1 Charlie departure.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Okay.
Okay.
So it'll start the boarding. So whilst the passengers are boarding and the kind of cheesy music's playing, we'll go ahead and set up the rest of the FMC. So GoSum 1 Charlie, runway 24. Our zero fuel weight today, 56.9. Reserves of 2. And a cost index of 6. Transition here will be 6. And a cruise level over to Dublin is 220.
I'm back from the walk around, everything looks good.
Hi, here's the fuel slip.
Okay, danke.
See you later. Max rate. And we'll expect it to be 60. We'll just pre-file this just now so we've got it in. From our takeoff calculation to reduce the stress on the engine, we'll go for a D rate of takeoff 2, and we'll go for 36 degrees. Which will give a nice climb too as well, 86.6 M1. Center of gravity is 23.1, we'll punch that in, and we'll set the flaps to 5, giving us a rotate speed of 137, V1 of 136, and a V2 of 142. 142 on the MCP, we'll just punch that in just now, select that, and we'll select our auto throttle and both our flight directors to on. Putting up the chart now for Edinburgh, and we'll have a quick look at what our altitudes and the departure heading are going to be. So the 24 heading is 242 degrees, 20 knot wind, but we'll just put punch in 242 just now, just for reference on departure. And the GOSM departure will take us up to 6,000 actually. A little bit of house cleaning, we'll hit the VNAV on and we'll bring the brakes to the RTO position. What we'll do is we'll jump up in the overhead now and make sure everything's all set up the way it should be there. They're all working the way they should be. Service interphone's on so we can speak to our ground crew. And it's selected on there as well, we've got flight as well. Make some light on here. And we'll give some circuit breakers some light as well. Check the ground power, and the electricity's looking good on the ground power unit. Starting from the left, we have our yaw damper on, things there, navigation set to normal. Displays are on auto and normal. Down to the fueling, and what we'll do is we'll chuck the pumps on now and we'll get the APU kicked on. Turning up again. Window heats are on. Just do a quick test of these to make sure they should be fine. And we can see from the passenger cabin showing freezing, but they'll be fine. Doors lights are okay. Chuck these off just now, the electric hydraulics. What we'll do is we'll throw the seatbelt sign on. Throw this to 22,000, which is the cruise level. Don't need to touch any of the air conditioning at the moment. And that's set to auto over there on the pressurization panel as well, this panel over here. So that's set to auto, so that's fine. Lights wise, we can go ahead and stick the logo on now. Ignition set to the right as well. This is because a lot of the standby systems run off the right system, and if there's a failure, we'd like to spot it on the ground rather than in the air. Got the APU on now, so we'll go ahead and we will just launch this to the APU now. Clear the warnings. Make sure these work properly. Check our option, and we can go ahead now as well and just set this to 220. Just as a reminder. Get some panel lights on our side. First off, so on there, so what we'll do is we'll just jump down here now. Again, some panel lights on. Now the GOSM departure doesn't actually have much raw data which we could potentially use, but what we'll do is we'll punch in the Glasgow VR, which is 1154. Because we route essentially via Glasgow and Turnberry shortly, which we will be routing down via. Punch it on the nav2 1175. Just in case we lose some issues, and it also helps with situational awareness as well. Check the fire systems.
Are you ready for the departure?
Go ahead.
Okay, that's going to be a standard pushback and start of the stack. Taxi route will be as assigned by ATC. It'll be a left seat takeoff, using derated thrust with an assumed temperature, planning a flat 5 takeoff. Anti-eyes will be on. In the event of a malfunction prior to V1, I will call either reject or continue. Standard low speed reject procedures below 80 knots. Between 80 knots and V1, I will only conduct a high speed reject in the case of an engine fire or failure, predictive wind shear warning, or if there is any other condition that makes the aircraft unable or unsafe to take it to the air. I will simultaneously close the thrust levers, disconnect the autothrottle, apply maximum manual braking, or verify the operation of the RTO autobrake. Apply maximum reverse thrust, verify the extension of the speed brake, and bring the aircraft to a complete stop and set the parking brake. We will then run the appropriate checklist and evaluate our options. If you could monitor my actions, make the standard rejected takeoff calls, including any abnormalities, be observed before advising ATC. From V1, or if the call is continue, I will continue the takeoff as per the standard company procedure. We will climb to the MSA and track clear of the local terrain. We are under our maximum landing weight, so we are okay to make an immediate routing. Okay, all going well. The departure routing will be via the assigned SIT, complying with our published speed and altitude procedure. No noise abatement procedures required. VNAV is on. Flight directors are on, mine is master, yours is slave. Navigation radios are set, the NOTAMs and the aircraft defect log have been reviewed. The local terrain and current weather pose a threat. We will treat all GPWS terrain alerts as genuine and we won't rush any departure procedures today. Any questions, comments or concerns?
No questions.
Departure brief complete.
However, devices that with flight mode or the equivalent may be used. Flight mode must be selected now because the device is not. Thank you.
Safety inspection and before start checklist to the line.
Safety inspection checklist. Surfaces and chocks.
Checked.
Maintenance status.
Checked.
Battery.
On.
Electric hydraulic pumps.
On.
Landing gear lever.
Down.
Ship's library.
Checked.
Safety inspection checklist complete. Before start checklist to the line. Phones.
Off.
Off IRS mode selectors.
Nav.
Gear pins.
Removed.
Light test.
Checked.
Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Yaw dumper.
On.
Navigation transfer and display switches.
Normal auto.
Fuel.
Pumps on.
Cabin utility IFE.
On.
Emergency exit lights.
Armed.
Passenger signs.
On.
Window heat.
On.
Hydraulics.
Normal.
Air conditioning and pressurization.
Pax auto leads on. Set.
Pressurization mode selector.
Auto.
Instruments.
Cross check.
Auto brake.
RTO.
Speed brake lever.
Down to tent.
Parking brake.
Set.
Stabilizer trim cutout switches.
Normal.
Hi, the cabin is ready to go.
Wheel well fire warning.
Thanks.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Checked.
Radios, radar and transponder.
Standby. Set and standby.
Rudder and aileron trim.
Set and checked.
Takeoff briefing.
Set and checked.
PA.
Complete.
FMC CDU.
Set.
M1 and IAS box.
Set and checked.
Stabilizer trim.
Set and checked.
EFB.
Set and checked.
Flight deck windows and cockpit door.
Locked.
Locked. Doors.
Closed.
Before start checklist completed to the line.
Due to icing conditions, please stand by for engine start until push completed and brake set.
So we'll just do our before start quick procedure
And
now.
ground cockpit, we're ready for pushback.
Now we'll call for the below the line checklist now. Below the line.
8 pumps.
Locking gear.
Off.
Air conditioning packs.
Off.
Anti-collision light.
On.
Parking brake.
Set.
Transponder.
Standby.
Before start checklist complete.
Departure check completed, Captain. Bypass pin inserted. And release parking brakes, sir. Commencing the push, Captain. Start engines at your discretion.
Due to icing conditions, please stand by for engine start until push completed and brakes set.
So what we'll do is we'll just ignore that because technically there is no icing conditions at the moment. So we'll just go ahead and start 2 now. Starting engine 2.
Check. Oil pressure.
N2.
Starter cut out.
Mods number 2.
Number 2 stable.
Starting engine number 1.
Check.
N2.
Oil pressure.
And set parking brakes, please.
Maybe worthwhile saying even that the incredible night lighting here across the panel
Unlocking gear.
isn't default with the NGX. It's from FS Labs Spotlights program, which creates
Captain, the tow truck is
perfect
disconnected and the
soft
bypass pin is
light
removed.
as you would get
Starter
in
cut
the real aircraft. Watch number 1.
Number 1 stable.
Left and right, both clear.
Flight controls check. Centered.
Check.
Centered.
Check.
Before taxi checklist.
Before taxi checklist. Generators.
On.
Probe heat.
On.
Anti-ice.
Off.
A pumps.
On.
Air conditioning.
Pax auto bleeds on.
Isolation valve.
Auto.
Start switches.
Continuous.
APU.
Off.
Recall.
Checked.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Flaps.
5 required. 5 selected. Green light.
Stabilizer trim.
5.1 units set.
Start levers.
Idle detent.
Before taxi checklist complete.
Okay, so we're ready for taxi now. Brakes off. We'll bring the throttles up a little just to get us moving. Taxi out here, then we'll go right onto Golf, left onto the other runway, which is 12, then follow the mics up to Alpha for runway 24. company aircraft over there.
1-2.
RAS there, showing out that we're approaching 1-2, which indeed we know we are.
On runway 30, 300 feet remaining.
Company aircraft there looks like it's just pushed back. Go ahead, stick the weather radar on now. Not that we're probably going to pick up much tonight anyway. Before takeoff, checklist to the line.
Before takeoff checklist to the line. Confirmed.
Checked.
Flaps.
5 green light.
Stabilizer trim.
Set and checked.
Takeoff briefing.
Reviewed.
Holding at cabin. Cabin.
Secure.
Before takeoff checklist completed to the line.
What we'll do just now is we'll just get rid of these lights. Duck in the flight deck before I take off. Confirm cleared to enter runway 24.
A firm cleared to enter.
Clear left.
Clear right.
Floor the line.
Cabin crew seats for departure. MCP.
Set.
Transponder.
Approaching 2-4.
TARA.
Landing in strobes.
On.
Holding at retracts. Retracts.
On.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
A little bit of weather on the departure route there.
On runway 24.
242. 242. Timing.
Checked.
Once the power to 40% stabilise.
Stabilized.
Set takeoff thrust.
Takeoff thrust set. Indications known. knots.
Checked. Gear up.
Positive climb.
Park up.
Walk up.
Flaps 1.
Speed check, flaps 1.
Flaps up.
Speed check, flaps up.
After takeoff checklist.
Stand by. After takeoff checklist, air conditioning and pressurization, set altimeters.
Set and standard.
After takeoff checklist, complete. Happy to release the cabin crew?
Yes, please.
Okay. Altimeters.
10 checks.